Are you ready?
Yes.
No! What are you waiting for?
On your mark, get set. We're riding on the
Clueless.
internet, cyberspace, set free. Hello, virtual reality. Interactive appetite, searching for a website, a window to the world, got to get online. Take a spin, now you're in with the techno set. You're going surfing on the
Clueless.
internet.
So that's how you get interconnected to the internet. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Clueless Internet podcast, episode 20.4. I'm your host, Alex, and joining me once again is my wonderful co-host, Howard.
Hello.
Now, I'm hoping that everyone, including us, is burnt out from political news because, frankly, I'm loving it. How about you, Howard? Are you sick of political news at this point?
I think it's time we give people a break.
Yeah, we'll stop spouting about how the oligarchs are taking over and how we're all doomed, so that we can talk about the new consoles. This is really late coming. I know I promised this ages ago, Xbox fans. I promised that we would look over the Xbox UI. And we're going to do it now, even though the consoles have been out for like a week or two at this point. But we don't have an Xbox, so we'll never experience this. Well, who knows?
Well, we've got more
do.
chance of getting an Xbox than a PlayStation this side of Christmas if you wanted to try.
Very true, very true. Because you have a lot of scalpers who are selling the PS5 for like £1,200.
I thought that was people
no
being
thanks.
overreactionary until I saw actual pictures where people have literally got like 300 stocked up, and I'm like, fuck you.
Some of the scalpers have more in stock than the stores do. It's kind of ridiculous.
Did you see that UK news story that I think it was Metro ran, where it was like there's a cabal essentially of scalpers who have got together and worked together to essentially amass more than most retail.
Fucking hell! I don't know how they do it. Because I swear it was like one per person.
They set up a bot network, so they essentially put through, in air quotation, one order per person. But
right.
But this is why they worked together, so they could then talk to family members within their groups, get their addresses, get them to chip in essentially. So they would have just ordered them to anyone they can get names and addresses for, that can then pass the console back onto them.
Is it illegal?
And the bots could obviously check out faster than any human person, therefore they would get the majority of pre-orders. It wouldn't knock people out completely. Obviously, people can get their pre-orders in because the bots aren't going to get every single one, but I would say the majority of consoles sold. As far as I can tell, the majority of consoles sold weren't to individuals, they were to scalpers. They all looked like individuals on the books, which is why Sony couldn't do anything about it.
But they knew. Yeah,
the only thing you could have done is created an algorithm that could have sniffed out bots. They should have probably had a better, they should have probably had a capture system, like even one of those stupid ones with like the crosswalks and stuff.
Yeah, those usually get me, fuck's sake, let alone the bots.
I usually don't get those captures first time, even if I've done it perfectly, like those captures can be glitchy. So it's like they're actually, even though they're a bit glitchy, they're perfect because sometimes it's like you have to do it twice.
They capture bots and idiots like us.
Yeah, it's very human.
Yeah, but basically it just stops all humans and just lets bots through. Fuck, we set it up wrong. So the Xbox UI video, which will be linked in the description at cluelessinter.net, because, as I've said multiple times, I'm just going to call them out. Spotify, your descriptions suck. You can go to cluelessinter.net to check out the links if you're on Spotify. But if you're on everything else, I'm pretty sure it's okay. So this video is hosted by Malik Prince and Harrison Hoffman. Very good names. I think Malik was... I think he was just like sort of PR, I think. And Hoffman was... I want to say an engineer or something on it. It's been so long since I've actually watched these videos. I'm relying on my notes. So the first thing that they do is power it up. And I want to say, I wish the PlayStation had the same kind of power up button as the Xbox. I wish they had sort of, you press the PlayStation logo and it lit up all nice and stuff. I know they want to stay sleek and hidden and stuff, but it would have been nice just to have maybe like that side button or something as a button, or it would have to be on the front, but just that side button would have been nice. The first thing that we get presented with is the home screen, and the first thing that I notice is they have a customize button in the bottom right, which I assume it's sort of like the window when you click start on the Windows computers, and you just get like the blocks of the apps that you want, so you'll be able to customize. It could be you'll be able to customize where your blocks are, or you'll be able to customize the tabs that are on the home screen. So on the home screen you have Home, Game Pass, which currently EA Play has been added to the Game Pass, which is huge, like the Ultimate only, I think. So it's like, I think the Ultimate is a tenner, or it's either $7.99 or a 10 or $9.99.
One of those.
It's between those. It's either $9.99 or $399. Take your pick. Which is huge for that, because I think EA, I don't know how much EA Play was, but it was definitely not worth it on its own. Now you've got it with the Game Pass Ultimate, especially on PC as well, because you get PC and Xbox access with the Ultimate. You don't just get one or the other. It's such a sweet deal, especially if you're it's literally perfect for somebody like me who doesn't mind picking up last year's copy of FIFA, because I play career mode and all of the rosters change after the first season anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's just well done, Xbox. I give you kudos for that. And the home button, you've got two hitting them out the park at the minute. You got favorites, events, entertainment, store, and community. You can guess what those are, right?
No. I have no idea.
They also mentioned that they have dynamic backgrounds, which is exclusive to the S and X model, the latest models, which has been a thing for a while on the PlayStation.
It has. I assume that's just. I'm not sure why it's only on the more expensive model. I know the other ones obviously have been slimmed down, but I don't see why.
Oh, it's on both. It's on both. It's on the newer ones rather than like the Xbox.
Oh,
One
so
X.
they're not going to do a UI update for the current or the last gen, essentially.
As far as I'm aware, no.
Oh,
but that could have changed since recording this.
Yeah, I thought they would have done, just because Xbox have, especially in recent times, they like unification of all their stuff. So I'd assumed, and there's no reason why the older consoles can't handle dynamic backgrounds like the PS3 had dynamic backgrounds.
It's probably just a pay for the premium of it.
I suppose it's a feature they're like, well, no, don't put it on the old ones. We want them to buy the new ones.
It's quite nice because it's like in the free to play games where it's like, this skin is £5 is not necessary at all.
Yeah.
But if you want it, you're gonna have to pay for it. Which I get it. I don't mind them holding back. I don't mind like the consoles and everything holding back stuff if it's unnecessary. Now the load times, Howard. As far as I can tell, they loaded back into the game that was paused after turning the console on. So it was completely off, and then they turned it on and jumped straight back into Gears 5. And this thing loaded. I'm telling you, it loaded like that. It was so quick. There was no like splash screen or anything. It was just straight into the game.
The instant resume on both consoles is insane. I think I've told you about someone I follow, Chris Reagan, one of the Sacred Symbols people. I think he's got a hold of both of the new consoles, and he showed a quick resume.
Lucky boy.
Well, he showed a quick resume from one console to the other. So he literally like resumed into a game on Xbox and then quickly resumed into a game back on. So I think he jumped from Halo to Spider-Man or something silly. And it was just like he was probably out of a game for all of 5 seconds.
Man, that's so ridiculous. Especially from an off state. This is insane for console gamers, I suppose. I mean, as like you have mentioned to me before, ROMs have a save state that you can just jump straight back into, but it's kind of ridiculous for consoles.
I think they're essentially utilising that tech that ROMs have used for years. It's just something consoles didn't want to put in, because I assume at some point they could have been manipulated to mess with your saves.
Maybe.
Now it seems probably more secure to do that kind of stuff.
It could also just be that it couldn't load all the assets to make the game look like semi-decent when it loaded in.
That's true. Obviously, ROMs and emulators are always based several years after the console's done its life essentially. So obviously you run it on much more powerful hardware.
Yeah, I assume like running Gears 5 is a lot more intensive than running like Pokemon Yellow. So the dirt load time, so they went to the quick resume another game. The dirt load time was a little bit longer. It was like, I think it was between like 5 and 10 seconds. I assume this, I'm wondering whether this was a brand new console or they played it already. So it was like...
If it was a console they'd been using to create content like this reveal, then it's probably been running for a bit.
So it may be cached. So the first time that you swap games, it may take longer than that, and then after you swap after that, it would probably cache like the last 5 minutes or whatever of gameplay, and then just like it's ready. So apparently they have new networking hardware which will let you download things a hell of a lot faster if you're wireless, at least. Like me.
Well, I think that's the compression, which again on both consoles is a little bit insane. Downloads are better because of the compression of the actual game itself, so the actual game itself is smaller or better compressed, therefore the download times are ridiculously smaller.
Oh, nice.
And I assume that's the same for both, essentially. I think we're into that generation of hard drive being the main spec, essentially, of the consoles.
Which it should be. It's so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, towards the end of the PlayStation life cycle, we're going to see like just no loading screens for some of the early PlayStation games. So Miles Morales, when you play Miles Morales towards the end of the PlayStation life cycle, you'll probably just see no loading screens like at all, because I think it's got like a 22 gigabyte a second read if it's fully compressed.
Yeah.
Something like that, which you will get on first party games, pretty much guaranteed. So another thing they had is they had 69.1% storage available until they plugged in an expandable storage card, which is fucking expensive. It's like $200 for like a terabyte. But it just instantly updated. It just instantly updated the thing. You didn't have to go into like any menus and go, oh, we need to format the thing. It was just boom.
Is this a solid state drive, the external?
Yes, I think it has to match because it has to match because it's from Seagate. I think it's a proprietary item. I think that's the word. So I think it's essentially the same hard drive that they have in the Xbox. It
would be a third-party kind of joint operation, except I'm pretty sure Microsoft recently, or in the last few years, bought Seagate, so...
It would make sense. We like Fallout, we'll just buy you. We kind of like your hard drives, we'll just buy you.
In fact, I think Western Digital owns Seagate, so they probably bought Western Digital.
Even better. Talk about the expandable storage slightly. The PlayStation has an M.2 drive that looks like it's more for the long term. Just because eventually the M.2 drives will have like huge storage, like ridiculous speeds to match the PlayStation for relatively cheap. Like I would say more towards like the midway through the life cycle of this current PlayStation. Current place, it feels weird to say current gen. The current gen PlayStation 5, so you'll be able to like get a ridiculously fast M.2 for like maybe even 2 terabytes that matches up to the 22 gigabyte a second read speed.
I mean, I think during the Xbox's life cycle, they'll probably release larger capacity ones anyway as the technology gets cheaper to develop. So even though you'll have to buy the proprietary, I think they'll probably have more options in the future.
Oh, definitely. Also, if you were worried about the Xbox Series S storage, because I think that's only 500 gigabytes. I don't know if that's 500 gigabytes after the OS or 500 gigabytes overall.
I would hope. Yeah.
I would hope it's after the OS. Apparently, the game sizes compared to the Xbox Series X are smaller as well. I'm shooting in the dark, but I think it's like nearly half the size of the Series X ones.
I think this is part down to the new generation of compression, because again, I think Miles Morales is, I think, close to half the size of the PS4 edition.
So that was already relatively small as it is.
Yeah. So, but I just think we're obviously in the new generation is all about reducing kind of friction of gaming, essentially.
I cannot wait to see Red Dead Redemption 3.
It's a reduction of the friction of gaming for gamers, but also a reduction of the friction for developers as well. Like with the Sony reveal, and I'm sure it's exactly the same on Xbox. They've now got the technology to make developing easier because you can now afford to put less limitations on geometry and stuff like that, thanks to some of the new software developments that have been made.
And that's all we ever wanted, was games to come out quicker. Thank you, Microsoft, for having so much money.
I think essentially, I think once the new, is it Unreal 5? I think once they're using the new engines like the new Unreal, which is still about a year out. Once they start using systems like that, which have been specifically designed for this next generation, I think development timetables are going to go down, unless it's like a massive game, like something like Cyberpunk or GTA. I think development times are going to start to go down, and I think the easeability of downloadable content. I think they've found that happy balance that everyone was worried about. It's like, well, I still buy physical media because it's just quicker and easier than waiting for all the downloads. I think this is the generation you might be able to afford to drop the disc edition. I may be able to get the digital edition if games really are this well compressed and download speeds have been improved. I might just get the digital edition. I'm not sure yet.
Oh, bold claims.
Well, it's something I didn't think I would say until I saw the technology running, which would mean I could probably maybe afford over a little bit of time afford both digital editions.
That is a possibility, actually. That is $350 and $250.
Yeah,
you would essentially
paying what you'd buy for one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, essentially. So on back to the Xbox UI, the guide, which is essentially like that side screen that comes up after you hold down the PlayStation button.
Yeah,
it's sort of like the quick menu. It looks, as I say, it looks very similar to the PlayStation layout currently. The tabs include the Home tab, which shows other games that you can switch to, and your Game Library and Home button. I don't know if the Game Library will just show up as an overlay on top, or it will take you to a different menu. People will have to tell me. I can't even say we'll have to wait and see now because it's already out. The People tab shows friends, clubs, recently played with, and looking for group option, which says 52 posts for Gears 5. So as you mentioned previously in the uncorrupted version of this podcast, not to say that we are corrupt yet. It says we imagine that it would be sort of people posting need friends for blah blah blah, looking for party of 4 or something, and you can hop in and find friends that way, which is it seems fucking cool. And I assume you'll be able to post like screenshots, videos, stuff like that. I'll have to have a look at a different one just to see if I'm right after this. I sort of wanted to just get my predictions down first and then go and look at what actually it is. You also have Party and Chats tab, Achievements tab. It's self-explanatory. And the last one to me looked like a Share tab with 6 notifications on the top right corner. I think this might be interactions with Twitter, Facebook, whatever you've posted your media to. Also, the Xboxes have Auto HDR, which it adds HDR to Xbox 360, and Xbox One games that didn't or still don't support HDR support. It's sort of just whacking a filter on top of the games. You know, it just makes it look a little nicer. And lastly, we've got the Xbox controller. They made it slightly smaller. It has the Elite Series 2 D-pad, which looks quite nice, like a little dish. They also have textured grips on the triggers and bumpers, which is quite nice. I know that especially when I'm playing like more competitive games, I notice my hands get a little bit sweatier and I start like slipping off the triggers and stuff, and it ruins my gameplay. Thank you, Xbox. Apparently they didn't have a share button last gen either, so now you have that, and it's tap for screenshot, hold for video recording. Once you take a screenshot or video, it's uploaded to the Xbox Live cloud and is available on your mobile app, which is nice, which you mentioned, saying that PlayStation had taken that ability away, saying that they had made it so you can't just export it to the mobile app. Now they've got that new one.
I have a feeling that might change in time, but they've got rid of what is called activities on the PlayStation. It's still there on the console. And if I was to post something to activities, you in my friend list would be able to see that I'd posted it. But the app can now no longer access the activities. It's just completely removed. There is no such thing as activities on the PlayStation 5, as far as I can tell. They got rid of communities and stuff. They've got rid of a bunch of stuff that was kind of part of the PS4 ecosystem. So now
that brought us together.
Yeah, so now if I want to get a screenshot off my PlayStation, I have to use an external drive or use the remote play version on my phone, which resolution's not great on the screenshots. It's okay, but it's weird. Letterboxed.
It's not as good as you get console.
Yeah, it's weird and letterboxed. It's strange.
They also now allow you to remote download and remote play on mobile as well, which again has been a thing on PlayStation for a while. And you can connect your controller to your mobile. I assume via Bluetooth, or it may be connected to your network. I don't know.
I tried out the remote play for the PS4, which I assume works exactly the same as the PS5. You can either play with an on-screen joystick.
No, thank you.
Keypad, which it's a bit weird. Or you can just hook your. I think you hook your pad up first, and then once it's read your pad, the screen kind of appears on your phone, and then your pad controls both screens because your screen stays up, your main screen. So from that point on, you can control the screen with your phone, because obviously your phone's got the little joystick you can use if you want. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So I would assume that's how it works.
Yeah, it's not the highest resolution, but I didn't notice any frame droppage or anything. It's like you are playing. It's like a second screen essentially,
which is entirely useful if you've got just one TV and two people want to do different things. Somebody wants to watch YouTube. Somebody wants to play Watchdogs potentially. Like you've been doing, Howard. You've been playing a lot of the new Watchdogs Legion.
How did you know?
You told me.
Oh.
I just wanted to pick your brain about what you thought of the game so far. How many hours, roughly, would you say you're into it now? I know they don't really show you on console.
Yeah, unfortunately, the save game stuff is a bit weird on Watchdogs. But you can upload your game save and download it on the next gen consoles, kind of thing. So you've got a secondary cloud backup if you already use the PlayStation cloud backup. So I have no idea how long I've been playing. I think I'm.
Would you say you're like 3/4 of the way through the campaign at least?
Yeah, I did stop progressing through the main campaign for a bit because I did want to free some of the boroughs and get some of my. Because each time you free a borough, you get a special character.
And how do you free a borough?
You free a borough in the classic Ubisoft way. It's not. You don't have to climb any radio towers. You may have to climb some buildings, but it's essentially you complete some tasks around the area. So they're essentially those are your main side missions. Essentially, there is a secondary set of side missions from a from a group of hackers called the 404. They come in a little bit later into the game. At first, I was confused. I was like, "Oh, there's no side missions in this game." But once you start doing missions for 404, then you'll get side missions that you have to find a computer out in the world and download the information for the mission. And you also get side missions because you start working with a cop at one point in the main story, and you do some side missions.
Batman.
Yeah, you kind of become like a vigilante group of hackers that work with the police on certain tasks. It's a bit weird. But the gameplay's fun. The main story, the side missions are a bit side mission-y, but the main story is classic kind of science fiction stuff. It's like near future, cybernetics and
set in London.
AI. Set in London. The voice acting in it is a little cheesy at time and kind of comes off a little bit like AI-ish, but that's because there is a group of voice actors who have recorded all the lines for everything in the game, essentially. So sometimes villains will have that voice actor's voice. Basically, all the characters in the game are automatically generated, and they get assigned one of these regional voices. Some like Cockney, some like I think you get like I think the Scousers in there. There's some Irish.
You get Irish as well, yeah.
Yeah,
you get Jamaican.
Jamaican. There's kind of like what would you call it? Like there's an actual name for it, like modern London. Like it's not Cockney. It's
I don't know.
Would you call it like street London? Essentially, there's an actual name for it. I can't remember what it is.
There's just a huge amalgamation of different accents that you can get throughout the game because, as Howard said, most of the characters, well, not most, all of the characters are pretty much procedurally generated, apart from a few who are in the main story. You'll get the same character who talks to you throughout the main story. I mean, I've played roughly 3.5 hours, I think. I've played maybe 4 main missions, as most of my missions have been through the recruitment process. Now, Howard, you have a lovely collection of people that you have recruited thus far. We did tweet about this. If you want to see it, links are in the description. Did you want to go over some of the people that you've recruited?
Where are we? Oh, here's my... can't seem to zoom in.
If you click Open Original...
okay.
Right under the image, it does let you go larger because this is on Discord. If you want to join the Discord link is in the description.
Join the Discord, do it now.
We highly recommend it.
So my roster, so basically from the Beekeeper onwards, these are, so if you don't want spoilers, don't look at this, but I think these characters are automatically generated anyway, so yours would look different, but they'd have the same set of skills. So I've got the Beekeeper, the Football Hooligan, the Getaway Driver, the Spy, and the Professional Hitman. You'll notice on my picture I have 2 spies. That's because I just found one out in the world. I think he was near Buckingham. Just like I tried to steal his spy car, and he immediately kicked my ass. and as I was running away, I looked over my shoulder and went, "Oh, he's a spy," and added him to my roster. And just ran away.
I have to admit, I like the little detail. I love like looking at little details. I like how they overlap with their respective like layouts and stuff. So you've got like their loadouts to the side of them, their weapons, their gadgets and stuff, and you can see that their image. They move in that image, and they overlap with it. And the guy's pistol, like the silencer, is covering up his sort of a little bit of his spy car image. I love little details like that.
Well, all of these characters as well. I don't think any of them are in their original clothing either. Like
You changed them all.
Yeah, I really enjoy. Like some of the clothing options are really cool. I quite enjoy dressing up my little characters. Even my spy down there with that big leather jacket that I don't think he was wearing that originally.
He looks very Keanu Reevesy.
He looked a bit Keanu Reeves. He looked a little bit like Desperado. Basically, everyone gets kind of perks, so it's kind of like collecting like Pokemon or something as you're going around the city. Because I kind of scan everyone and go, not worth it, not worth it. Oh, there's a nice shiny.
You've just got a wrench. You've just got you get knocked down easy. Oh, you're shit at hacking. Oh, you can actually hack people.
Well, you'll notice like down here we've got the Professional Hitman. He's got gun kata, so instant gun takedowns, which is really useful if you're doing a quick run through an area. Like if you're going in guns blazing, he's really good. He comes with two pretty good weapons: Desert Eagle and an automatic rifle. Sorry.
God, I've noticed that everyone else sort of looks like they've just got sort of a taser and a bat or something, and then you've got this guy.
Yeah, well, most of them. People in DedSec don't use lethal weapons, but if you hire people who have lethal weapons as their occupation, they get to keep those lethal weapons. And you can also swap, I think, between characters that hold lethal weapons. I think so. That giant revolver that the amateur hitman's got, I think you can give that to the cop, kind of thing.
Right. Oh, okay. So you can swap lethal weapons with people who have essentially a license to kill.
Yeah, but anyone who doesn't have a license for that kind of weaponry, basically is stuck with the DedSec shock weapons, essentially.
Stuck being a fucking loser.
There's a really good set of gadgets and add-ons and abilities to take over like drones and turrets and stuff. Essentially, once you've got the unlocks, you can pretty much walk into a place and I'm trying to think of a movie equivalent. Kind of like
maybe something from like the Transporter or something.
Yeah, you can kind of just like walk in, like someone will notice you and you immediately distract them on the phone, or you jam their weapons and then they'll try and like arrest you, try and fire at you, and then they've got no bullets and you just do like a takedown or whatever. All the way to like
roll to the side.
You might be walking around a corner and then you spot someone's about to spot you, but oh look, there's a little thing I can set off here, so you can trigger like an electric junction box or something to go off and electrocute them. Or there might be a drone flying around you can quickly grab and stun them, kind of thing. If there's a news drone around, you can quickly grab like a news drone and then flash everyone so no one can see, and then you can jump back to your character and start taking people out.
So there's just a lot of possibilities with both gameplay and characters as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can do things. If you want to completely clear a building before you go in, you can find a nice hideaway on the roof, find the nearest camera, and then once you find your nearest camera, you can make your way into the network, start hacking turrets and drones and stuff to start taking people out. And you can pretty much just kind of walk into a war zone and just do what you need to do while everyone else is distracted. Sometimes
they usually tend to look for hackers, don't they? Whenever like a vehicle moves or if sort of a door is opened.
If here's a little tip for people they might not know. I've had incredible fun with this. If the compound you're breaking into isn't, because you quite often breaking into a compound of police or Albion or something, but if you're breaking into a compound with a gang, just bring the police with you and run through the building. The police will take everyone out because the bad guys will immediately start shooting at the police, and then the police will completely forget about you.
Oh right, a bigger threat.
Yeah, so like if it's a gang place, you can literally just get the police after you. Like go outside, hack a drone, shoot a few people, and then get the police after you. Just run into wherever you need to go.
Just let them do all the work for you.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to ask you about the sort of so you have all this creativity with obviously you can't create the characters, but you can gather up, you can assemble a squad. I think the limit is 48, isn't it?
48 or maybe 45. It's in the 40s. It's pretty ridiculous.
It's pretty high up there. You're not like just a crack squad in a movie.
Yeah. Considering I've got a gang of 11, and I've been playing it for a while now, it's like I feel like my little gang is perfect, but at the same time I haven't got any what you might call passive people, because you can absolutely play as anyone, but you can also, like, if you want to reduce jail time, if you want to improve healing time, you can get like NHS workers, you can get a lawyer or a politician or whatever, and you can reduce like prison times and stuff. But with the amount of characters that I've had, I've never really needed more.
Would you say that's a little bit of a flaw of it? I've heard people saying that unfortunately characters, and I have to agree myself, that there's too many characters and stuff that have overwhelmingly good stuff and then overwhelmingly bad, without having sort of anywhere in the middle. Like, I mean, if you want someone who's gonna improve healing times, you're not gonna get much in the way of anything else from them that's useful. They might sometimes you'll get like dual personalities. So I found an NHS worker the other day who also plays banjo, so that's a perk you can have if you want. You can pull out a banjo and start playing that. But otherwise people. But otherwise generally those perks are useless. So you kind of you hire them passively. You would never actually play as them, but they kind of add a statistical advantage for your whole team, essentially. All right. So I would just take Sam Doshi, your professional hitman here. So he has his Desert Eagle plus his G36. He has his instant gun takedowns, evasive dodge, and extra faction damage. Now, to me, that's a very, very powerful character.
Yeah. His dodges are actually really good as well. Like, you can kind of dodge in any direction. I'm surprised that's not something that every character can do, and that they've given it to just these specific people.
I suppose, much like real life, I think if I tried to do an evasive dodge, I would probably end up just like hurting my elbow or like hurting somebody else. But But for a character like that, I agree with people saying that I would like to see a character who has that many good points have a few bad points, like they're awful at hacking, their hacking takes twice as long, or they're in jail twice as long, something like that. Something just to offset it, to make it more of a decision rather than just
the thing
you're overpowered, you're mine.
I've played it very safe, and I've taken all of the characters that you get rewarded for. So they all come with good perks because I did a lot of missions to get them, essentially. It took a while to get them. It was worth working my way up to them. Whereas people on the street, it'll be harder. So I think when I pick people from the street, I specifically pick out ones with good perks. So that is a result of me looking for a while to find some of these characters. Like at one point I needed someone who works for Albion or the police. So I went around for a long time looking for someone with a good set of perks. Because there is perks like randomly gambles ETO. Will die randomly at some point during your game. Some will have like this person will might stay dead when they die. You've got flatulent, which so some people will alert guards with their flatulence. So there's some people who are like social media people. So one of the perks is like you'll be recognised easily in the crowd. So there are a lot of down perks, but my list here is very specific. This is me picking and choosing very specifically, which is probably why I've only got 11, and I'm probably close to endgame.
I would say I think one of the things that I have seen to offset this is obviously the permadeath. So as soon as a character dies, they're gone. And I did see that if all of your characters die, that's it, game over, you're finished. The game ends, and you have to start again, which is insane. And just I feel like just offsetting some of these really like just have a count, or like, because this is just something you could patch in. Really, this is like a another Hello Game situation where this is a way better game than No Man's Sky is from the get go, but you could make this into like the cream of the crop with just a few extra tweaks to things. Just add in like a game-changing downside to these characters that have not every character, because you want to have like the few characters that are the cream of the crop, have nothing wrong with them, and then obviously if you're playing a permadeath, it's like gutted when they die. But you want to sort of have more characters that have a high risk, high reward sort of lifestyle.
But again, like I said, most of my team is made up of people that I worked hard for. Like I did have to do like missions. Like even my spy, his mission to recruit him was pretty hard, and I think I actually had to do 2 missions. Yeah, it's weird. I think I could quite easily have a much larger team of people with more balance, like good and bad perks. But like I said, specifically have kind of taken a lot of time to choose these 11 people, and like I said, I'm near endgame and I've got nowhere near the 45 limit. I've just been very
Plus there's not really
selective.
Much incentive too. There's not much incentive to take bad perks.
Yeah, but sometimes there is, because maybe it's like you want that one perk that they've got for the whole team, essentially. Like my guy down here, extra faction damage, that could be on someone with less good perks, and I would still take it if I didn't have anyone with extra faction damage, because I could be like, I could do with dealing a little more damage, so I might just grab them and have them as a passive and never use them. But then you might have someone that's like got the gambling thing, and it's like even if they're a passive character, they're still losing your money kind of thing.
So overall, Howard,
and I have a
score
feeling
would you give it?
I don't know what online's going to do yet, because they haven't released it. It's not till December. I have a feeling this
could change our rating.
That could change everything. I have a feeling with online. I have a feeling online's going to be permadeath. I think the point of online is going to be to have to keep swapping and recruiting characters. I have a feeling,
which would make it more interesting.
Yeah, I have a feeling online's going to be very much like the single player, but with maybe multiple people. From what it looks like of the marketing, maybe gangs of people. I can't tell. So it's going to be interesting to see what online does. I have a feeling it might shake things up a little bit. And this might be purely single player. I have a feeling, even though I've been amassing this team I really like, I have a feeling I won't be able to take them into multiplayer.
You'll probably have to start a new save just to keep them safe.
So we'll see.
So multiplayer-less,
Yes.
what would you say your overall score would be? Because we are definitely going to come back to this once multiplayer is out. Hopefully it's cross-platform so we can play together.
Yeah. I would say originally when if I'd given you a score for the episode we didn't lose, which was, I think I gave about 7.5, I'd probably give it a clean 7 after playing it for a little bit longer. It's lost some of its attraction as we've been getting closer to the release of Cyberpunk. And I've been watching some of the videos that I'm like, this game, as fun as it is, it's very arcadey when you take into account what it is. It's a very arcadey kind of GTA game, which there's always a place for. But my favourite kind of games are the ones with incredible like worlds and narrative kind of weave. Basically, your Red Dead Redemptions. Those are my kind of games. And this is very kind of surface level. You don't ever you have like a kind of endearment to some of these characters. Like maybe you'll choose to play them more often than others. You kind of, even if they haven't got the best perks, you actually just enjoy their personality or something like that. You build a connection with them. Yeah, there's nowhere near the kind of connection that I feel like I'm going to build with characters in Cyberpunk, and that I've developed for characters like John Marston and
characters whose
Morgan, Arthur Morgan. My brain.
I thought he was going to say Morgan Freeman.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that, because obviously it's it takes into account how good your own world building would be for these characters, apart from a whole team's world building where they know exactly what emotion they want you to feel at exactly the right moment, whereas this is sort of a bit more all over the place. This is the kind of game I feel like I can jump into at any time and have a little bit of fun. It's quite it's a very faffy game. I do enjoy just like having to hop in and mess around. It's probably more accessible than something like your Red Dead's. Where like if you leave a game like Red Dead or Fallout or Skyrim or something for a few months, then you immediately have to start the game again because you have no idea where you were, because there's so much to take into account, like where your character was, what social things had happened, and like external things you had done, and where you would cut off points in the storyline by closing one narrative thing doing one way. Like you come back to Red Dead Redemption after a few months, you have no idea what you're doing. Come back to Fallout, I didn't even know who I was. Yeah, it's like you just have to start the game again. Whereas this, I could jump in, I'd be like, I generally remember with DedSec we do this thing. None of these characters are too memorable. I couldn't tell you honestly what I've done with each character. It's kind of just a blur now. It could have been any one of the characters. I've probably used them all equally. You've gone on a bit of a bender with them all. Yeah. So I couldn't tell you like what missions I completed with what character. Wouldn't know. Whereas I could tell you everything about my gameplay of Red Dead Redemption, or everything about my gameplay of New Vegas, or something like that. So I suppose it is a difference between when you have so many procedurally generated worlds and characters. Like you'll just create a new save and just completely forget about all these characters. Yeah. Which again is good and bad. As you say, it's arcadey. You can jump in at any time. I would definitely have to agree with you saying that at the current place that I'm at, which is unfairly only three and a bit hours, I would have to also agree with the 7.5-ish rated. It may get better. Ish. It's around about the 7 to 7.5. Yeah. I just say I'm hoping that multiplayer shakes it up completely and just makes the replayability ridiculous. I have a feeling new players to this game might give it a higher score, but I've played, and I think you played it here as well, I've played Watchdogs 2, and I think you've played Watchdogs 1. I played Watchdogs 1. Yeah, once you've played especially Watchdogs 2, because one of the things I would have liked to have seen from Watchdogs 2 to Watchdogs Legion is a little bit more variety in like the way you do missions and stuff. Like very many times I've walked into a compound and gone, this kind of feels like a mission from Watch Dogs 2. I know what to do here. So I think I've got a little bit of an advantage there, seeing as I'm coming from Watch Dogs 1 to this, where it's such a huge leap in in like game development and like better story, better
They've very much took the best
gameplay.
bits. They very much took the best bits of 2 and put it into 3. One of the things they removed completely was in number 2, you had to constantly hack everyone to get hack points, essentially. You couldn't hack things without hack points. So you were constantly going around draining like hack points from everyone. You'd have to hack every fucking person you saw. It got really fucking boring really fast. They've removed that in this one. You can just hack as many things as you want all the fucking time. And it's like, yep, but that's all I wanted.
It's just perfect. I hate it when they add restrictions like that to games where it's like, it could have been so much fun. Oh, so yeah, as I say, I would definitely recommend this game to anyone who hasn't played Watchdogs before or has just played 1 and is jumping into this from 1. If you've played 2, you can probably stick with 2 for a little bit, wait for the multiplayer to come out, see how that works, and then potentially get it on sale. But Howard, with that, I'm going to move us on to more recommendations that you have gathered for this episode. I actually haven't gathered.
Oh, did you not? Oh, okay.
I've literally lately. I guess I could recommend something, but I haven't. I can't recommend a channel in particular. I would say just lately I've been watching videos that just have no dialogue and just go in and just go into places like Japanese capsule hotels, like these awesome hotel bus rides, stuff like just places that you could have gone before COVID, just without dialogue or anything, and just text, and it's really nice and chill, and you can just switch your brain off and just watch. There's plenty of them on YouTube. I probably don't need to put a link to anything, but there are plenty. I would say that's probably my only recommendation currently. Oh, I know this chap.
Oh yes, so I've got a channel, and specifically a series from that channel. Like, actually, he's done some really fun stuff. I've actually gone back to his channel in the last few days and started watching some of his other stuff. And actually, I'm going to put a link in specifically for you. You might actually quite enjoy this. So what it is the channel's called Wayne Radio TV. He's a Twitch streamer, but he does turn some of his Twitch streams into produced content for YouTube. So one of the streams they recently did was Half-Life VR, but the AI is self-aware. He tends to do everything in VR. It adds, because the way they do it is actually they're kind of like a little improv group, and they do improv in video games. So if you were to watch one of his live streams, it's more like you're watching a production. I didn't realise this going into the series. I watched 1 or 2 episodes and it was just quite funny, and then I ended up watching the whole series, and I've recently watched the commentary videos that they've done afterwards, where they've watched through and shown you essentially how they built the series. Like, I didn't realise how much work went into it.
They've done like director's commentary.
Because they had to, like, just to break down, because everyone was like wondered how they'd done certain things, and it was like essentially like, I didn't know this, but the entire time throughout the video they've got an invisible producer, someone who's completely cloaked and no clipped, and he goes around adding props and stuff and making things for them to kind of run into.
Oh right. Oh, neither did I. Oh, that's interesting.
They generally don't use scripts. They only script big events in the storyline. They basically just let the improv roll, and then they kind of have little meetings, develop an improv for the next show. He'll tell like his friends, because essentially he's playing Gordon Freeman and his friends are playing a couple of AI scientists and like one of the security guards.
Half-Life 1, was it?
Yeah, so this is Half-Life 1. So Gordon Freeman, a couple of AI, I think one of them is Kleiner, one of them's Barney, obviously. So they take
one of
these
them's Coomer, isn't it?
They take these characters and they kind of build an improv story. They completely change, like they take the kind of shell of Half-Life 1 and make their own story as they run through it.
They've essentially only just taken the map of the game.
Yeah,
I think they've essentially just taken the map and then built a whole story.
Yeah, I mean, it's all
from scratch.
Anyone who knows Half-Life and Source, Valve, will know Gmod. It's essentially all made in Gmod. It's not made in Half-Life 1. They've taken the maps from Half-Life 1 and built it all in Gmod, essentially, because that allows you to do whatever you want in the Source engine, essentially. There's no limits. Like, they actually developed some sweeps, and which is switch weapons. It basically means you can program your own models to do certain things. So they programmed in their own like mods to like the characters and stuff as the story progresses. Like at one point, someone gets injured, so they actually adjusted the model to keep that injury throughout the show and stuff. It's all very well put together. And it's just stupid. It's entirely fun. You'll notice another video I've put there is Game Clam, which was basically, it's just a complete. I don't know who this is for specifically, because it's definitely for me. I enjoyed the fuck out of every second of this Game Clam reveal conference. They've put E3 2020 there, but I think in the show they call it 3E. And again, it's just them improv. Like, this is all done during the quarantine, so he films himself against a green screen and puts himself in like these situations and stuff. Like, they've essentially put together a console release conference in green screen, and they've done a bunch of like really cheap naff CGI for like the console and the pad and everything.
For,
it
like, looks beautiful.
It's fucking amazing. It's absolutely brilliant. And again, like in this, I think they've done a bit of writing. He seems to be reading from a teleprompter at some parts, but other parts he just seems to like jump on something at a whim. Some of their other videos include I let my Twitch chat donate to me through fax machine, which looks quite good.
I have seen the start of that one. It looks very interesting. You can send images and text and stuff, and he puts it on the quote-unquote fridge behind him.
In their playlists, another one is the Fallout 4 VR saga. I watched that earlier today. Very funny. Again, kind of, that was less improv. I think he always plays with a group of people, though, so the same people you see in the improv are generally usually there with him joking along, and so they're quite good as just a gameplay channel as well. They haven't been doing as much on YouTube since the series. I think they might gear up to do another series of something, because Half-Life VR was kind of their first big project. Before that, they did a lot of smaller improv, which they never uploaded to YouTube. So they're probably live only, so we've probably missed them. I think they did a Half-Life 2 VR at some point before the Half-Life 1 VR.
Right.
That, unless you were there at the time. Which is another thing I quite like about it. I've followed him on Twitch now, and I'm going to keep an eye out for notifications, because there's probably going to be some content on there that I'll never see on YouTube. So it's kind of like live entertainment over Twitch using video games. It's a very... I think the only other people to kind of do this kind of stuff was like Funhouse and Red vs. Blue and stuff like that, with Improv Machinima, and especially theirs, because they do it all live. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do it that way. It's kind of like going to see a play on Twitch. It's very weird.
It's a different way of presenting a game to you as well. I mean, while I was watching it, I've never played Half-Life 1. And it was such an interesting experience to go through a game completely differently to how the developers intended it. Like in such a way that it was so far from the original material. But I was watching and like, because obviously these are the maps from Half-Life 1, and as I'm watching, I'm just thinking what that was originally meant to be. Yeah. As well.
Well, as well, I think Wayne Radio hadn't played Half-Life 1. I think a few of them hadn't played it, but a few of them bloody spent their childhoods growing up on Half-Life 1, so some of them knew exactly how to like kind of manipulate the story to make it quite funny, and then others kind of felt like more like passive viewers to the game, so like the main character, and I think maybe Benry as well, or Barney, didn't really know what was coming next kind of thing, didn't know what to expect. So there's a good mixture of humor, but also tactile like ways of like figuring things out to make people laugh and stuff. And the story does develop surprisingly into a really like stupid but fun, interesting story. Some of the director commentary and stuff is really interesting, like when they talk about one of like the biggest moments in the series. I didn't realise, I won't spoil it, but it was a complete glitch.
Right.
So like they all thought someone had spawned it into the game. It's like, no, the game did this by itself. They couldn't have replicated it if they wanted to, and it's quite a big part of the like story later on. So that's quite interesting. But yeah, they just developed.
I'm looking forward to finding that part now. I'll be texting you whenever I see it.
They managed to develop a whole storyline that like it starts off very much following the story of Half-Life 1. By the time you get to chapter 3 and 4, they've completely gone off the rails and are just doing their own thing, because they've now develop these characters and this world that they live in, that they no longer have to rely on the storyline of Half-Life 1, and they just go off on their own complete mental, like, especially Part 4. Part 4 is insane. It's completely insane. I love it.
Beautiful. How many parts are in this Half-Life series?
There's 4 parts, but I think some of them are broken up. So I think Part 3 is broken up into 2 parts. I think Part 4 might be broken up into 2 parts as well. Not many, though. I think it's like 10 max altogether. But considering, like, the production value, like, they didn't want to remove that feel of kind of like the authentic, like, Twitch feel. So, like, even though it's well produced and it's all on YouTube, you'll still see, like, Twitch chat and subscriptions happening on screen because it was all just done as live theatre. They didn't want chat to not be able to interact and stuff. Like, a lot of the time they did things based on what chat was saying because it was all improv. So they were taking kind of like suggestions and stuff from chat. So they leave all that in. It has a very community kind of feel to the series. It's very... I know, it was probably one of the more wholesome, fun things I've seen come out of quarantine. I think they started it before quarantine, actually, but it went on well into quarantine.
Well, it's obviously capable of carrying on in quarantine.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of other media, unfortunately. Have you got any more recommendations, or are you still going on?
Yes. So yeah, please go and watch them and give them some support because they're all very lovely people. From what I've seen of them, very funny. Well, I don't know. The humor is very childish.
They're hilarious, basically.
But I love it. It's just completely stupid. If you just want some dumb fun, like you don't want to have to fucking think too much, absolutely watch that series. It's brilliant.
I mean, to be fair, honestly, you could sit there, watch 15 minutes, leave for 5 minutes, come back, and you probably have felt like you haven't really missed anything. You just get, "Hello, Gordon."
Hello, Gordon.
I love it when he cuts out as well. It's even better. It's just, "Hello,
Hello, my. So my next recommendation is a channel called Rob Scallon. And he does...
Oh, that's a big room. That is a big-ass room.
He is a musician, I think guitarist. I don't think he's classically trained or anything. I think he taught himself through tablature, which is like breaking music down into numbers, essentially, for the guitar. But I think he's kind of fascinated by other musicians and other instruments, so... I think he's done some like classical Japanese instruments, and he always gets an expert in. So he's done with with one of like the leading Japanese players on this instrument. He's had a kind of Renaissance musical expert, so someone who deals in playing instruments, but also trying to replicate the music they would play on instruments from like the Renaissance and the Baroque period and stuff like that. And some of the stuff...
They better have played WAP at some point.
Some of the stuff they talk about is very interesting. Well, they tend to do a back and forth, so he tends to interview them while they're sitting there maybe messing around with their instrument. He interviews them, and then he tends to go, "Okay, let's have a little jam." So they'll both just like try and figure out what chord each other's playing, and then they'll jump into like maybe just having a little mess around. Then they'll swap instruments, and he'll make them play the guitar. And he'll jump on whatever they've got, and he'll try to just get like a little bit in, so he can get like a little bit of a jam going. And then they'll generally swap back and try and do another little jam again. Now that they both understand each other's instruments a little better. So his shows are quite good. It's very much like that. It's like a little interview, a little bit of learning about the instrument and the players, and then going into a little bit of a jam and figuring, like, trying to teach each other stuff. This particular video I've put in the recommendation is he went to a church I think it's in Chicago, but it's one of the largest pipe organs in that part of the US. And he does an interview with the person who's essentially in charge of controlling this monstrosity.
It's fucking huge.
And
like, the actual keyboard looks like the inside of inside the cockpit of a plane.
Well, it's very much so, and you can't even see the underside. Underneath there as well is an entire pedal system that is utilized as well. And he explains exactly what each row of those keyboards for. He explains what all of those rows of buttons are for. He explains what the foot pedals are for. He later then takes you up into the towers of the church, and he essentially takes you and shows you all of the instruments, because this pipe organ is made up of, it's got like brass sections, it's got wind instrument sections, it's got string sections.
Holy hell, this is huge.
Yeah, it's not an organ, it's an entire, essentially it's an entire orchestra built into a building. Like, the building itself is the instrument, so like he makes the joke of, this is literally the largest instrument that we've ever done, and probably the only one you can get inside of. And then he'll like he climbs.
Don't challenge me.
Well, they later climb around in all the rafters and show you. It's actually like really fascinating. And then at one point, the musician guy, because obviously he does some electronic stuff, he notices that one of those many white buttons says MIDI on it, and that immediately intrigues him. So he asks the bloke who essentially is in charge of running this thing, and he says, "I've never done the thing," but he was like, "I know that it can record." So he plays a little bit of music, and then he hits a button, and the keyboard, because the keyboard is a digital keyboard that's hooked up to analog instruments, that's all done through wind, the MIDI keyboard then plays back exactly what he's just played on the keyboard. So they then in the
building plays it back to him.
Yes. So in the second video, they take a bunch of. It takes them a while. In fact, showing them trying to figure out how to get MIDI working on this is probably one of the best bits of the video. It's great, constant, just like frantic calling like experts and stuff, because it's obviously you're trying to hook a fucking Mac Air into a church. It's great.
You should have just led with that, Harry. You should have just led with that.
But then they get a bunch of MIDI music. Once they figure it out, they get a bunch of MIDI music, and they play a bunch of like MIDI tracks, including Mario and stuff, through a church. And it's just,
oh, that's awesome.
It's beautiful. It's a really good video. Like these two videos alone, I would recommend. But his entire channel is brilliant. It's fascinating. And if you don't know a lot about music, you don't need to know a lot about music. He'll generally break it down for you, because like I think he kind of says it himself. He's not exactly an expert. He's not classically trained in any fashion.
He's just a big fanatic.
Yeah, he loves music, and he can play. Goddamn, can he play? He's a fantastic player, but he's a bit like me. Like, I'm not a great player, but don't take that as. But I generally don't.
I can play a building.
I generally don't understand music, but I can sit down on a guitar or a ukulele and make a nice bit of noise. I can sit down at a keyboard and make a nice bit of noise. I can make a nice little bit of noise on a harmonica. Generally, that I couldn't tell you what notes I'm playing or what chords are. But yeah, he'll break things down a lot of the time and kind of explain what a scale is and stuff if it needs explaining.
I'm just on that MIDI video, and I've just seen the moment that he notices the MIDI. His face lights up. I have no audio, but his face lights up.
Oh, the dude as well. The dude who runs this keyboard is he's all up for it. He's having so much fun. He sees this, whoever that guy is, he sees it as an opportunity to just get more people to come down to the church, and because obviously it's not just a church. They also do live performances there with the wind organs and stuff. So he just sees it as a marketing opportunity, and he is all in for everything. He's like, yeah, let's get this fucking MIDI going.
Mario.
And my last recommendation.
We should see if we can one day get like the Clueless Internet theme put on there.
I could probably transcribe it into MIDI if I could take some of the parts and record it. I used to work a lot. I used to work a lot with MIDI in FL Studio, and there was an old. I can't remember what it's called now. Was it called Guitar Tab or something like that? It was an old piece of software that you could break down tablature into MIDI files, so I could get a lot of tabs and turn them into MIDIs and stuff.
Have you ever seen those MIDI videos where they just have like so many notes playing? It sounds like there's a voice with it. Yeah, we could just play one of our episodes like that through it. You
can actually have voice channels through there, because obviously you have voice channels in certain MIDI instruments and stuff. So they do actually have on that giant MIDI. On that giant pipe organ, they have a choir section, which
oh my god
replicates the kind of wah kind of effect that you'd get on a digital synthesizer, but through pipes.
Okay, guys, well, make sure to join us live for episode 20.5 in Boston, where we'll be performing first episode ever there.
His channel, if you're a music lover, and if you're not, you will find something on here that will probably fascinate you. I
have subscribed.
My final recommendation for the day, and you know exactly what this is because everyone should see it. I thought it was only one of the creators, but actually it's Trey Parker and Matt Stone. So this is essentially a YouTube channel created by the creators of South Park, and it's a live action kind of take on a news report about deep fakes, essentially. And if you're a fan of Peter Serafinowicz, he's also in there doing a little Michael Caine cameo. This is some of the best deep fakery I've ever seen, I have to say. There are some moments where my eyes completely fall for the deep fakes. There are some that are obvious, so stupid, like the Mark Zuckerberg one, where it's like you know what they're doing. They've kind of given him a kind of like puppet feel, like a South Park puppet feel, and they're making him dance around. But the Michael Caine one and some of the Trump stuff,
the Jared Kushner one, fuck
yeah,
that one was so good. Some
of them just look so good, and it's got your classic South Park humor. If you enjoy South Park, you'll enjoy the shit out of this. I don't really know what else to say other than watch it. It's very funny.
Without giving it away, I mean, Peter Serafinowicz, if you don't remember, is the the bang 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 from one of our previous
toilet
episodes.
Gun. No, kitchen gun. It was toilet grenade, wasn't
it? Toilet grenade, yeah.
They're all clean again.
Just the woman.
I fucking love Peter Serafinowicz. If you're struggling to get a visual, he was in some of the Simon Pegg films. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy as one of the people that Star-Lord flipped off. He was one of those guys.
Was he? Oh, was he actually the roommate in Shaun of the Dead?
Yes.
I thought he was.
Yeah.
I remembered his voice when he came down and he was saying, "It's fucking 4 a.m." I was thinking,
well,
bang, bang.
He's very much... A lot of people in America might not know who he is, but he's in a lot of American stuff, mostly as a voice actor. He's got a massive career in America as a voice actor. He plays Darth Maul. He's the voice of Darth Maul. He doesn't play the physical side of him. The physical side of him is played by the guy who played Toad in the original X-Men. Who's a very good acrobatic actor who can do a lot of his own stunts and stuff. But the voice, much like the Darth Vader was voiced by James Earl Jones, Darth Maul is voiced by Peter Serafinowicz.
God damn, well, I never knew that. You learn something new every day. Holy shit.
He's got a long and storied career in America, but just a lot of people might not know him because you generally don't see his face in a lot of stuff. When you do see
would make sense.
When you do see his face in a big Hollywood project, it's usually as a bit part like in Guardians.
Oh, that's all. I'm gonna have to go back and see if I can spot him out. Are those all your recommendations?
Those are all my recommendations for the week. I might have more for you next week because I've been consuming a lot of content to keep my brain happy.
And I will try and get a few in for next week as well. So yeah, I think that will do it for this episode, Howard, unless you've got anything, any last words?
No, that's all good, thank you.
Bang, bang, bang. Get rid of him.
End of the show gun.
If you want to check out any of the links for anything that we've talked about today, you can check them out at cluelessinter.net. You can follow us at cluelessnet on Twitter. If you want to email us, you can email us at podcast@cluelessinter.net. We also have a Discord and a YouTube channel. I highly recommend that you join the Discord. We have set up some new text channels for Today I Learned, Today I Fucked Up, and 3 Real 3 Fake submissions. So if you've got anything rattling around in your brain, any Reddit links that I may have missed, and you think, fuck, Alex would do such a fucking good job of ruining this story, do send them into there. You can also get notifications of when YouTube videos go up, podcasts go up. We live stream over on twitch.tv/Clueless Internet.
It's the best way to stay in touch with us and to keep up to date with what's going on, essentially.
Basically, we're on pretty much every day, I would say. So if there's anything you desperately want to know, your best bet is contacting us through the Discord. But yeah, I think that is it for me. Is that it for you, Howard?
That's it from me.
Make sure to share the podcast with at least one of your friends. and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Crap.